welcome to another episode of Spiritual Superpowers. I'm Karen. Don's not here today, but we have a really special guest with us today, and this is Barry Shepley, my husband. And why I wanted to talk to Barry today is I think a lot of people that tune into this channel will identify with some of the dynamics that Barry and I have together. Just so you know, Barry is a coach, a professional coach, a former Olympic coach. You've been to how many Olympics, Barry?
1 Olympic coaching, 5 Olympics doing commentary.
Yeah, for what sport?
Sport of triathlon, swim, bike, and run.
The sport of triathlon. So as a coach, now we met in university, right? And I was doing my undergraduate degree in kinesiology, and you were doing your master's degree in exercise physiology.
Yep.
So would you consider yourself a scientist?
I think coaches really come from a place of data. So certainly there's no question whether it's heart rate, it's watts, it's times for a mile or a kilometer or 100 meter swimming. Data is really critical as a coaching aspect. But I've always also felt that there's this other side. So, coaching is called the art and the science. And the science, it's there, it doesn't change. But the art, I think that's what makes the difference in champions.
Yeah. Well, I think what we want to get into in this episode is you being the scientist and me being the, woo-woo person, and how that's evolved over time and how you've maybe incorporated that into your life and maybe your coaching. So, we met in university and have been married.
Coming up on 30 years.
On 30 years now.
Yeah.
So I think when we first got together, I was kind of that science person too. I mean, I've always taught yoga. I've always had the woo-woo side and maybe some other things. And as the years have progressed, that woo-woo side has come out of me more for all sorts of reasons. But I wanted to ask you a few questions about that. How does it feel to be married
to a woo-woo girl?
Yeah.
Well, first of all, I think that I've always been open-minded, and I believe there's just a lot of things that pieces of equipment can't initially show you or tell you. And I think that we've seen in the last 25 years that as equipment has gotten more sophisticated, there's a lot of things that we now are seeing from the kind of spiritual energy side that we kind of felt there was something there 20, 30 years ago, but it was an intuition. I've always felt that there was something there. I always felt that, the growth of an athlete, the growth of a musician, it doesn't matter what it is, that there was these two sides. There's maybe the hard kind of science side, but there was this other side that if you neglected it, you probably did it at your own peril. And certainly I think what you've done for me and for athletes I work with is opened up my mind that there's a whole area there that hasn't really been fully exposed. Like I would say right now on the athletic side, maybe it's like at 4 out of 10 in terms of, it's just been the last 4 or 5 years that people have started to do these things, from meditation to breathing.
I think meditation is a big one that a lot of athletes haven't incorporated, but that's about it. Right?
Yep. And I think more sophisticated athletes have gone a little further, but really it hasn't really hit mainstream until maybe, meditation 4 or 5 years ago. And some of the stuff that you and Don, and I've watched every show, I think they're fantastic. I think a lot of that stuff is, 1, 2, 3 years from now, the mainstream is going to be on it. And you and I've talked about this. You've always kind of been like a standard deviation ahead of the curve in terms of being exposed to yoga, meditation, certain nutrition type things, breathing exercises. So I think that smart coaches and smart athletes and programs should be paying attention to the thing that they probably haven't yet really incorporated into their program. And that's this kind of energy management and some of the things that you guys have been doing.
Yeah. Okay, so let's talk about your woo-woo side. Do you have a woo-woo side?
Well, you can't be married to a woo-woo girl and not have a woo-woo side. I've always had it. Initially, I didn't know how to describe it. It was around numbers for me. And I'd said this to you pretty early on into your journey, that I had this feeling about numbers before I ever could Google and say what 333 meant or 555 or some combination of digits. I just had feelings about number combinations. And I'm a goaltender. So I would literally be in my net and I would be looking up at the clock. And if I saw, a 222 or 333 or something, left in a penalty or left in it would give me a certain feeling. And it's hard to describe as a 14 or 15-year-old goaltender of like, well, what does this mean?
And back then, that was kind of the only digital clocks where you'd see those repeating numbers, because otherwise it would be,
a hand clock.
Right.
Yeah, but I played many hundreds of hours in hockey arenas, and I can still picture the arena in Harrow, the small town I was in. The clock was only at one end, so sometimes I would physically have to turn around in my net to look back up and see, there's 2 minutes 22 seconds left in the game or something like that.
And what would you think when you saw something?
I don't know what I thought. I just felt like these numbers were telling me or giving me some indication of something. And there
some
were
information.
Yeah, and there were times when, we would be losing in a game with 2 minutes and 22 seconds left and the clock would stop for a face-off and I would look up and I would just get a certain feeling like we're going to score.
Yeah.
Et cetera. So the number things have been there for me for a very, very long time. And then it just kind of became more prevalent as you and I started to talk about it.
So let's talk about how you realized this number thing was more than just a weird thing that was in your head. So what happened?
Well, it was a really odd day. You and I were out for a hike in a beautiful Palgrave forest that's 200 meters from the front door of our house. It was getting late in the day, like 4, like late in the day. Mm-hmm. And you said, let's go home and eat. And I said, I'm going to go see your mom. You said, no, let's go home. And
I was cold.
Yeah. And for your viewers, your mother's house is 2 doors from our house. Like it's that close. I just had an odd feeling and I said, no, I'm going to go see her. So rather
you looked
than...
at your watch.
I did. I looked at my watch and it was 4:44 and I just said, I'm going to stop in. And so you said, okay, well, that's fine. I'm going to start, supper. So you went home. I went, knocked on the door, no answer. And she's not leaving the house. So I knew there's something up. I waited, knocked, doorbell again. And finally, after about 2 minutes, and I was going to actually go get a key and kind of come back, I see her coming down the hallway looking very odd and strange and moving slowly. And as it turned out, she was having 30 minutes into the middle of a stroke. And it would have been really easy for us not to have gone till the next day, see her for breakfast or something. And so we were lucky enough to be able to get her to the hospital and deal with all the things that are required to kind of minimize a stroke. But that was one of those odd days. I just had this weird feeling looking at my watch that I needed to go see your mother. And I remember, it was your mother, not my mother.
Right. And the neat thing is, not only did you see that time on your watch, you had the thought to go.
Yeah, no, it was very clear, and it's not something that I would have done normally.
But I remember the conversation, like much later after all the, we
hospital
dealt with
stuff,
the trauma and everything. I said, what was it that made you want to go check on her? Because you didn't tell me about the numbers on your clock or on your watch. And you just said, I saw this on my watch and I had that feeling. And I said, that's a thing. And you said, what do you mean that's a thing?
I didn't know it was a thing. I was really, I intuitively felt, since I was a young 12, 13-year-old, that there was something about numbers. But I certainly didn't have any woo-woo parents or woo-woo friends that could explain it to me. The internet, I couldn't look up and say, what does this mean? So I just always felt like there was something, but that particular moment, and then you're kind of helping me understand, that there was a feeling tied to a number, tied to a whole experience, and just happened to be, fortuitous that we're next door to your mother and was able to, stop what could have been a difficult situation.
Yeah. So that's your spiritual superpower, which is pretty cool. And it took how many years to figure that out?
45 years. Yeah. So I'm a slow learner. Yeah.
But anyway, so that's the kind of cool story where you're kind of discovering your
my
gifts.
own power. Yeah.
Yeah. But I'd really like to delve into this idea. You coach athletes and high-level athletes. These are, sometimes Olympic champions and
world champs and so forth.
Yeah. So, without naming names or anything like that, have you seen an athlete who on paper and in their workouts should be like crushing it?
I think every coach has had this situation where there's, I call it blocks.
Right.
And that there's an area that has nothing to do with their aerobic capacity or their muscle strength or their speed or the quality of their bicycle or whatever their sport might be. But there is something that is holding them back from becoming the champion they can be.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is probably the case in 50 to 60% of the athletes out there. Probably a vast majority of them could improve their performance if they could unlock some of this spiritual energy that they really don't know that it's blocking them.
Yeah. Gives me some ideas.
Yeah, well, we'll think about it for the future.
Yeah, I would love to work with
Yeah.
someone and see what happens.
I think that if an athlete's open-minded, it's no different than having a massage, getting into a strength training program, meeting a nutritionist for better food, go down the list. Smart athletes want to unlock every scenario because their competition is going to.
Yes.
Yeah, for sure.
So, and I think the only one that we really saw recently or talked to recently about that was Mark Allen.
Mm-hmm.
Right? He had that spiritual side where I really haven't seen anyone like that.
Yeah, no, there's no question they're out there for your viewers. Mark Allen struggled, and we talked about this in the Hawaii issue. He struggled for 5 or 6 years on the island, and it wasn't until he kind of came to peace with the island, the energy of the island, and that was partially driven by his mother. But he had some professionals that helped him kind of get into the energy of the island, and he loves the place now. Like I've been with him probably 10 times in Hawaii, and when he gets off the airplane, there's a certain that he has. But he had to get over that hurdle to be able to eventually win the race.
Right.
Yeah.
So that episode was called the Curse of Madame Pele.
The big mountain has not erupted for 38 years, and it's erupting as we speak. And roads that you and I have hiked on and walked on and driven on have lava now starting to flow down them.
And at the same time, there's so much controversy with the Hawaii Ironman race itself. At the same time, is that coincidence? I don't know.
There's people out there who love the island who believe that Madame Pele is not so thrilled that there's some bad karma happening out there. So who knows? But here's a mountain that has not erupted for 38 years, and in the middle of some kind of controversy has erupted. So yeah, you don't mess with Mother Nature. I tell you that. Whether it's oceans, wind, lava. I mean, these are factors that no man or woman is strong enough to overcome.
Yeah. Okay, so let's change gears a little bit.
Sure.
So, Barry, you have written a book, and it's called Chasing Greatness. And an interesting part of this book is we've done a lot of episodes with Marilyn Penny, and her daughter, Samantha Penny,
spectacular editor,
was the editor.
Yeah.
So, shout out to Samantha.
No Samantha, no Karen, no book. I happen to live these 45 years of experiences, but you were the impetus to write the book. And during the pandemic, I had 3 different times I traveled to the US and had to do my 2 weeks of penance in the basement for the pandemic time. So I had 6 weeks over that almost 2 years. And I wrote all 200 pages during my time in the basement. You'd put a pail of food at the top of the stairs and say, go write for another 12 hours. And I lived in the basement for, 2 weeks, 3 different times. So the book was really motivated by you, all these inspiring people that I had contact with. The time was on my hands, I couldn't get out. And then the hard part, Samantha Penny really was able to close the deal because all these stories somehow needed to get weaved into, 18 chapters. And that's where Samantha was fantastic.
Yeah. So tell me a little bit about the book from a woo perspective.
Okay, well let me tell you a couple really quick stories, and maybe some of you even interested in buying the book down the road. It's not a hard PR sell for that, but I actually think you'll love the book. And so the book really opens up. I am making vans in Windsor in 1984, and I am moved by a guy named Alex Bauman, who was this young 20-year-old swimmer from Sudbury, Ontario. It was the Summer Olympic Games. And I am in a factory of 700 or 800 men who never say a word to each other. They're not motivated to speak to each other. They have a newspaper at lunch, they read it, they eat their sandwich, they go back to work, and they're finished. And Alex Bauman wins the Olympic Games gold medal in the IM swim race. Canadian, beautiful maple leaf on his pec of his body. And these 500 or 600 men who never say anything to each other are hugging each other. And there's an energy. I mean, guys who never say anything are moved by 2 minutes or 3 minutes of swimming. And that gave me, I still have goosebumps right now thinking about it. It gave me this kind of addicted desire to be a part of that. And at first I thought it was going to be me, that I would be, the Olympic champion winning. And that I did not pick the right parents athletically. But what I eventually did, and you'll see in the book, is I realized my gift was helping other people express their gifts. And that's the coaching side of things. And so there's always been woo-woo in my coaching, to inspire people, to motivate people, to find, that little crack that gave them confidence, that got them over the hump, whatever the case may be. And so the book is filled with all these incredible stories. And one of the stories, that I'll tell your viewers, we are in Sydney. It's the 2000 Olympic Games. Triathlon is going to make its Olympic debut. It's never been there before. I am the first ever Olympic coach. We are in Sydney, the epic, beautiful city in the world, front of the Opera House steps, ready for the race. And for a year, I've been trying to buy a ticket for you to, after all you've done for Simon Whitfield, for my support, for all the other athletes, I need my Karen at the finishing line. And it's sold out. There are no tickets. $60 ticket, I am now up to $1,000, that I'm prepared to pay $1,000 for one ticket for a 2-hour race. Nobody will sell it. So you and your twin sister Jill and your mom and your aunt, the 4 of you are in Australia, and you're just going to stand out on the road on Macquarie Street with 500,000 other Aussies. You're going to paint your face in Canadian colors, and you're saying no stress, don't worry. We're going to be out like the other 500,000 people on the street. And so I made you promise. I remember that the night before, we're still up to it's now a year, and it's now the night before. Simon is racing the next morning. It's 8 o'clock at night. And I called you, and you're in Canada House, and you said, look, no stress. We're going to be out on Macquarie Street. I said, you have to promise me you'll go to this hotel a block from the Opera House. I'm going to have you a ticket tomorrow. Anyone else would believe there's no way this is happening. And you were still not stressed. You said, look, don't worry, but you promised me that you would go. So 6 o'clock in the morning, Simon and I are leaving the village. I still don't have a ticket. We're down at the Opera House steps warming up. And a person comes up to me with 2 hours to go before the race and said, I heard you needed a ticket for the event. And they hand me this envelope. And I run over to the hotel, put your name on it. But before I finish licking the envelope, I open it up thinking, maybe they're lying to me and there's not a ticket. I open it up and there's not a ticket. There's 1, 2, 3, 4 tickets. And literally, in the end, they were seated 4 rows from the finishing line, and the person sitting next to you is Simon Whitfield's mother. We went from no tickets to 4 sitting 35 feet from the finishing line. You're next to the kid who eventually, 2 hours later, wins the Olympic Games gold. And, in the story, one of the stories in the chapters, the madness that you and I and all Canadians that were in Australia were able to, enjoy and be invited to parties and things, because now this kid has an Olympic gold medal, and we were part of his little posse that got to cruise around Australia for the next, 15 days celebrating with his gold medal. So that's just one.
It feels like it's still yesterday.
Well, it's 22 years plus, and I can remember it. And I also remember, looking up into the grandstands as they started to play that anthem, the same anthem that moved me in 1984, 16 years before, when Alex Bauman won in LA. I was now hearing that anthem. It wasn't for me, but it was for somebody that I had a little piece of DNA on. And it was incredible experience. And to have you there, and your sister and your mom and your aunt, and to know that over 75% of Canadians were watching it live.
Yeah.
I mean, it was an amazing experience. It was life-changing for us. The book isn't just about that day and that race. We went to 5 more Olympic Games, and there's some crazy stuff that I won't tell you, but you got to read. And there's no question that there is some more woo-woo in there. When you read the Beijing Olympic chapter, you can't tell me that there wasn't woo-woo happening for Karen Shepley in that day.
Well, I think you have two spiritual superpowers now. One is the numbers,
Right.
and the other is manifesting. I think you manifested those tickets long before the term manifesting got popular.
I mean,
So
the first
you're-
person that showed me manifest really was Simon Whitfield.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's in the book. But in 1996, the kid doesn't own a car. He's riding a crappy old bike. He has no money in the bank. He's never won a race. His daytimer, he's writing Simon Whitfield, 2000 Olympic gold medalist. Now, most people would say crazy. He's coming from a country of snow. It's not a triathlon nation at this moment, you know, etc. So I've seen the power of manifesting ideas and visions, you know, and I've been able to do it for 45 years. You've seen it,
Yeah.
whether it's Kids of Steel or C3
Yeah.
or events that we've put on, things that people say, there's no way that's happening. And of course it does happen because you know, I think where most people fall down for me on their manifesting is they have this dream and then there's no action.
Right.
And
So manifesting has to have the desire and then the action that goes along with it.
and sometimes that is a grind, you know.
Yes.
So
yes.
like
and sometimes it's magic.
yeah, for sure. But you know, you start off with the dream and then you have to kind of probably overcome some hurdles along the way. And this book is full of those kinds of stories. So, you know, chasing greatness was me chasing it, but me helping a whole bunch of people chase their own greatness. And it's an awesome, like, honestly, it's something I'm incredibly proud of. I'm happy you took the whip out and forced me to get it done. I'm happy that Samantha Penny was able to craft it in such a way. And, you know, you can get it through Amazon. You can, you know, go to our website, but certainly,
And what's the website?
chasinggreatness.ca is got it, and I'll sign it and fire it off to you. But Amazon, if you want a quick copy, they've got it all around the world.
Great. Well, thank you so much, Barry. That was fun for me because I feel like it was sort of my journey too. This book and
This book
a lot of stories in
yeah, for sure, 50%. And literally, I want to say how proud I am of you and Dawn watching, you know, where you guys started. I mean, I remember sitting in the kitchen listening to you guys manifest about the idea of a YouTube channel and of some shows. And a lot of people have those ideas, but they never kind of get off the ground. And you guys have kept it going for a couple of years, and spectacular viewers, spectacular stories, interaction with your viewers. I think it's been magnificent.
Yeah. Well, thank you, Barry, for chatting with me. So if you like this video, make sure you give us the thumbs up, subscribe if you haven't already done so, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss another episode, because maybe we can find an athlete that we can experiment on a little bit. That would be fun.
I think there's a whole bunch of them that need to.
Yeah. All right. So thank you very much for tuning in, and we'll see you guys soon.